So the third episode of 24 Legacy just dropped, and this is my spoiler review and discussion of that episode. So if you haven't watched the episode yet, go watch the episode, and if you want to join the conversation, join me on here. I would love to talk about it with you. With that said, if you haven't caught my reviews of the previous 2 episodes, essentially I've thought thus far this season's been a decent but not great continuation of the series. 24 is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Started to run out of steam towards the end there, and they started to kind of recycle some plot points, and that's a little bit what thus far this season has felt like to me. It's kind of the recycled feeling 24. Not the worst. There are worse seasons based off what we've seen thus far without the characters that we love, and they haven't done enough yet to make me love these characters. That's my view kind of up to this point. I thought this episode was a step in the right direction for the show. With that, let's just kind of talk about the different plot lines. First off, we got our main character, Eric Carter. He starts off at a police station very quickly. He moves out of the hostage situation and starts working with CTU. It's a pretty 24-esque type plot for the last minute phone call to come in and all is kind of cleared the air. Even though he's been holding police officers hostage, there was almost a gigantic shootout. He used bombs inside of a police station, but one phone call, hey, go ahead and we can let him go. It's all good. Very 24-esque for that to happen. Strains a little bit of credibility, but I will say I think it's for the better, and I think it sets up the show kind of heading in a better direction. So essentially, I think one of the problems I've had with the show thus far, and especially with the main Eric Carter storyline, is we've never seen Normal at CTU, and I haven't seen Normal in his life. He does not work at CTU. He just knows someone that used to work at CTU. Rebecca Ingram's, the senator's wife, doesn't even work there anymore. There's kind of a new guy coming in, so we haven't seen Normal CTU. The show starts and just kind of right from the get-go, he's being hunted and she's trying to work behind the scenes and she's taking out the new boss, and so we haven't seen it kind of functioning right. And there aren't really pre-existing relationships with some of the main characters the way there were in like the original show 24. There are connections, but there aren't as strong of connections. Whereas in season 1 of 24 starts with Jack Bauer, the original series, and Jack Bauer's the head of CTU, and so he knows everyone at CTU, and we see him, there's a little bit of interactions, things start off fairly normal, and there's a threat called in, and so then there's a point of reference when he goes rogue to understand him going rogue and what that looks like and what he's kind of putting on the line and why he's doing it. But even then, it takes a little while for that to get going. Here, it just kicks off right off the bat with characters we don't know, with a CTU he doesn't work at, that Rebecca Ingram doesn't work at anymore, and he's already going rogue. And so I think that's somewhat why I didn't quite connect with it just right. It's like, whoa, we're going awfully quick for having not established CTU or these characters' relationship with CTU really yet. So I think seeing them kind of centralize a little bit, start working together, will set up the future a little bit better. Then this storyline kind of gets put on pause for most of the episode, and we see all the other stuff, and then we come back to it in the last 10 minutes where he trades off the money with his former partner is a little bit cuckoo. Shootout breaks out because apparently the terrorists have been following Crazy Man. I think that's the implication. They're following Crazy Man and not CTU guys. Shootout breaks out. End of the day, terrorist guys get the information, and I don't think any of our good guys died in there. So with all that said, pretty 24's type situations once again, that there's a double cross, people follow them, bad guys get away with it. Kind of has to happen to set up the rest of the season. Overall, but I think it sets up a good direction for the actual hunt for the terrorist, where we're not just hunting, or Eric Carter's not just going rogue doing stuff before we're even hunting the terrorists. I like where it's going a little bit more. I think it's a good way to establish things, strengthen our central core people and the relationships there, to connect with us with them, to relate to them a little bit more. I will say, as one kind of last thought on Eric Carter, is that I don't feel thus far they've established him as strong enough charismatic lead yet. And I don't mean that as a knock on his acting ability so much as the character himself. They just haven't given us enough for me to like him yet. He's just the guy that's the lead guy that we're following. He's the guy that's the best at shooting people and beating people up. They've established a backstory why he can do that. They just haven't made him very likable to me. He's not unlikable. He's not distinctly likable thus far. He's just one of many tough guys on the show. And In this final 5 minutes of this, he gets pistol whipped by a guy that was an Army Ranger, and then he gets run over by a car. Now, the show's got to go on for several more hours. You're beating up your main guy quite a bit, awfully early on in the season, given that it's played out in real time, and now he's going to have quite a headache, and I've never been hit by a car and rolled over the top of it, but I'm pretty sure that messes you up at least a little bit. So they're beating it up an awful lot early on. Maybe they're going to use that well. Season 2 of 24, Jack Bauer's heart gets stopped because they torture him, and that's used to great, wonderful, dramatic effect throughout the rest of that season. Maybe they're going to have Eric limping for the rest of the episode because he just got run over by a car and pistol whip. With that, the other main storyline in the episode, or there's kind of two other main ones going on, but one of them is with Senator Ingram's campaign manager is accused of being the one that gave away the identifications, the locations of the team of Rangers. And so she's brought in, she's investigated by Ingram's wife. She says she didn't do it. Starts trying to use evidence. Through this, it's revealed it's actually Senator Ingram's dad, who is kind of the mingling mastermind guy working stuff. Those are normally some of my favorite 24 plot lines. I love kind of these Illuminati, the guys that are trying to be the dark government and manipulate the systems. I hope that's where this is going. Most of the time, I like those storylines, so I kind of like that twist where you go, oh, okay, I like that. I like where this is headed. Hopefully it works out nicely. So, like the twist, like kind of the way that's working. That's all I really have to say about that. Good job. Then from there, the other kind of main storyline going on is the teacher-student terrorist operation. Last episode, they killed a guy that figured out what they were doing. This episode turns out he's not very dead. So he runs off. They have to chase him. He passes the guy that's hit on the head, passes out by a soccer field. So before they're able to drag him away, other students see him. He's taken off in an ambulance, and our terrorist teenager decides, I'm going to jump in the ambulance to kill him along the way. So thus far, this is the weakest of the storylines for me, of the main storylines, by quite a bit. If you beat a guy over the head, they think he's dead, you normally check the pulse, or if there's not an enormous amount of blood just pouring out of his head, he's probably not dead. There's a number, you normally notice breathing. There's any number of things that you would have noticed that would make, because it happened about 30 minutes into the episode, 20 minutes into the episode that he runs off. This means he's been laying on the floor for 20, 25, 30 minutes since that event happened in the previous episode. So the idea that they didn't pick up on the fact that there's not enormous amounts of blood, that he's still kind of breathing, strains plausibility a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit something I missed, but they should have bound his hands if they thought he was alive. They thought he was dead. All the things they were trying to do strains credibility a good bit. And so the storyline doesn't quite work for me. Beyond that, there's a couple other things going on. Carter's wife is still at the brother-in-law's house. She's suspicious of the girlfriend of the brother-in-law. And once again, very kind of typical 24 plotline where there's kind of the side story, and of course, something evil has to be going on there as well. There has to be extra tension everywhere. They hinted at a plotline with one of the analysts at CTU and one other small little sideline we talked about here, where he's got a spat with a former lover that's been cut off. And it's just kind of, once again, little storylines where they just have to have the tension. There always has to be that day something awkward is happening. Not always the strongest elements of 24, and that's typically kind of the biggest criticisms of each season. At the end of the day, you go, oh man, like we'll probably look at this season and go, oh, where they went with Carter, they really actually did come up with a great character to replace Jack Bauer, and where they went with it, doing some different things with them while having the same format. That'll probably work out nice. I'll probably end up being like Senator Ingham, that worked out really nicely. And I'll be like, why did they have to have that whole subplot with the wife, with the brother, and the girlfriend, and the girlfriend's up to no good, and so then eventually she's going to leak in from it. Something's going to happen, and it's just stretches things out. It's like what they did with Kim Bauer for like the first 3 seasons of 24. She was one of the main cast, so she had to be around, so she kept ending up in places, and she had plot lines where the evil girlfriend was jealous, like in Rats Her House. It's strange plausibility. It's extra stuff that doesn't need to be there, that doesn't tie in. So anyway, I'm pretty excited. I'm looking forward to when the plot lines kind of converge a little bit more, come together, and our terrorist cell of the high school student and the teacher ties into the plot more so than, oops, we killed a student. Uh-oh, he's not dead. He got away. I'm going to kill him on an ambulance. It's just all that comes off very melodrama-y as opposed to if they're trying to plant a bomb and not get caught, things like that. But when you're trying to hide a body with other people, someone just walked in and there's a body on the floor. Doesn't work as well. And same with, I mentioned it, season 4 had a similar kind of plot line where there was a terrorist family in the suburbs and his girlfriend comes over and they gotta kill her. Now they gotta get rid of the body. Those ones just, they come off very weird, the way they always play out. In this one, I would likewise say the same. So I hope they get to planting a bomb at the school or something like that very soon. So anyway, all that I think this is a step in the right direction, establishing the stories a little bit more. I still don't love these characters. There's not like this character that I'm like, oh man, I really like this character. And read some articles talking about how the analyst at CTU, he's supposed to be the new Chloe O'Brien, except he's just analyst guy. He doesn't have like a distinct personality where Chloe O'Brien did. Because he named my daughter Chloe, and this is one of the Chloes she was named after, Chloe O'Brien from 24. He doesn't have a distinct personality like that. CTU boss guy, he's just another CTU boss guy. Former CTU director Ingram, she's just kind of boss woman type lady. Senator Ingram, just kind of good old senator that trusts his people. We worked our way up and I trust you because you're one of my... He's just kind of like that. So our characters thus far, they just don't pop. And once again, our lead guy, Carter, he's good at beating people up. It's kind of interesting, this idea that he has a bloodlust to him, that he's not functioning well in society because he belongs, but in kind of war type stuff. But they haven't made him all that interesting personality-wise. He's just a serious guy that can shoot and beat people up. Anyway, step in the right direction. I think I'm going to keep doing these week to week because, like I said, 24 is one of my favorite shows. I want to love 24 Legacy. It's decent enough entertainment. It's not pulling me in the way I want it. How about you? What did you think about this episode of 24? Tell me in the comment section what you think about it. Is this a step in the right direction or do you think it was a step backwards? Let's talk about it because I don't want to just talk about 24. I want to talk about 24 with you, and thank you for watching.